I got asked on this TikTok. So they gave me this prompt. They said, hey, Alex, how would you make 6 figures a year? That was the question. And my immediate response was, I would sell something for 100 grand and then figure out what I would do for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And so it's like these people think about money differently. You know what I mean? And so if you think about how do I build this thing into like 100 million, and you have to think of a number that's as high as you can fathom, right? If you can't fathom 100 million, then don't think that. But like as high as you can mathematically fathom. So it might be $10 million. Okay. Think like how many dogs would I need to walk? And you just reverse the math into what you need. Right, and then
how many people I need to hire, and how many? Yeah.
Exactly, and then you start with the inputs, because in the beginning, the only inputs you have is going to be the content, it's going to be running the ads, it's going to be doing the warm, it's going to be do the reach outs. That's it. Those are the inputs, and then everything else is going to stem from that. And then what will happen is if you have the advertising machine on the front end to bring people in, the bottleneck becomes your leading, rather than the selling and the product.
You're leading, yes.
Right? And so then the focus then becomes, how do I use that same? If you really want to get deep on this, how do I use that same skill set of advertising and then shift it to my internal? Because I still have to do warm reach outs, I still have to run ads, I still have to make content, I still can have affiliates or get referrals from my employees to get more team. And so every business has 2 funnels. You have the front end funnel that gets you customers and the back end funnel that gets you team. And so as you crank this guy, you need to crank this one. And then that's how you can scale these things to the moon without stopping.
Right. Is it harder to get leads and sales or harder to build a powerful team with the right culture?
I think they're both hard and both easy for different people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Layla naturally is very good at the back end funnel. I mean, she's so good at building culture, but she has this thing that she's kind of spoken over me from a belief standpoint, which is if you are a really good marketer, a really good salesman, a lot of them are like, oh, I'm not a good leader, I'm not a good operator, not a good whatever. And she's like, if you can sell all those people and influence all those people, you can use that same skill set and just face internally to your team. It was a nice belief shift for me, or belief breaker for me. I was like, she's totally right. And so to the point that you were making earlier, like leading is selling and influencing, a lot of it really comes down to being able to move people and being able to clearly communicate what you want.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to overcome their limiting beliefs around money in general?
A lot of people were told things about the world that were not true and they take them as fact. And so they're making their decision calculus off of something that is not true. And so they're making conclusions off of false data. And that's why they can't see it, because what they're basing their assumptions on is false. Right?
But they've been believing it for so long.
Yeah.
So how do they change that belief when it's been baked in their psyche for decades?
Yeah. I think that the way that the biggest beliefs have been broken for me have been one of 2 ways. Reality proves me wrong, or someone tells me a story and gives me evidence from their lives. Like I remember when we went to a mastermind and we were just starting out. I was not making a ton of money. And a guy got up there and he gave his little spiel and he was like, yeah, we're making $300,000 or $400,000 a month. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not really sure I like the business, blah, blah, blah. And the guy did not seem smart.
And you were like, how is he doing this?
And it's funny you say that, because my actual first thought was, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And so that was like, he, through evidence, like he reshaped my reality. It was one of the most momentous things. I remember Layla and I both had the same takeaway because she was next to me. When we both saw this guy do this, like we walked out and we're like, dude, if he can, like we both immediately had the same conclusion, like if he can do it, we can do it. And so I think that that's like, how do you either have reality prove you wrong, or someone else is that reality for you, where they tell their story about, hey, I used to feel the same way, I used to think this thing, and then I will share my story so you don't have to have the scar.
Yes.
So you don't have to give up 5 years of your life to learn this lesson. I'll just give you the story so you don't have to have the scar.